how we as Craig Hospital partner with organizations, community organizations throughout our area in Colorado as well as the country.
Morning, Ms. Dale.
So who we are, my name is Robyn DePan, or by a lot of folks at Cortland, I was Robbie Perez at that time. So I graduated from SUNY Cortland in 2013 with a therapeutic recreation degree. Best time ever, love Cortland. I then went and did my internship at the Adaptive Sports Center in Crested Butte, Colorado. That is an adaptive sports community organization. And I was staff there for about 3.5 years. And now I am currently a recreational therapist at Craig Hospital, and I have been for about 4 years now.
And I am Kadee Mardula. I work with Oregon Adaptive Sports. I'm currently the operations director. I oversee all of our programming and make sure our staff, volunteers, and athletes have the support they need for a successful experience in outdoor recreation. I started in 2014 as a volunteer and then became an instructor, the program coordinator, and I'm now where I am today.
Great, just a little overview of our presentation. I'll be speaking about Craig Hospital and how we operate as a clinical organization. We have disciplinary teams, how therapeutic recreation functions within the hospital, and our community outings. Then we'll move over to Craig Hospital's Adventure program, review its purpose. Then we're going to talk about Oregon Adaptive Sports and how we partnered together as two organizations. How did we start our Adventure program, funding that goes into it, community partnerships as a whole, and program development. Following that, we're going to talk about strategies for building a clinical and community collaboration and the benefits of those collaborations, both for participants as well as organizations. So jumping right in, Craig Hospital is a world-renowned, there's a little feedback there. There we go. Craig Hospital is a world-renowned rehabilitation hospital that exclusively specializes in neurorehabilitation of patients with spinal cord injury and brain injury. Craig is a not-for-profit, freestanding national center of excellence that has treated more than 31,000 patients with SCI and BI since 1956. We are a 93-bed facility and average about 2,500 inpatients and outpatients a year. And that's a split about 50-50 between brain injury and spinal cord injury. And as you can see on the screen, that is Craig's mission. By the numbers, so we treat all levels of spinal cord injury and brain injury. Brain injuries involve traumatic brain injury as well as stroke, aneurysm, anoxia, etc., and neuromuscular disorders such as transverse myelitis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, and other conditions. So our average inpatient stay is 2 to 4 months. And as you can see on the other side, the leading cause of all of these injuries, particularly traumatic brain injury and spinal cord injury. This is an example of how we treat as an interdisciplinary team across the board, being our patient and family in the center of that. Each patient is assigned an interdisciplinary team that stays with them throughout their entire inpatient program. The patient and their family members are a critical part of the rehab process. The team's goals are to help the patient and family achieve much independence as possible with the abilities that they have. When they become an outpatient, they are supported by a variety of transition staff who teach them the skills and connect them with resources they need to transition back into their home and community, focusing on the goals the patient and family identify they want to accomplish. So as you can see, there are many, many people that surround the patient and family during their rehab process, one of them being a therapeutic recreation specialist. Now I will start talking about therapeutic recreation at Craig. This is where we are getting people back to the things that they enjoy. Therapeutic recreation is an integral part of the total rehab process. Leisure time activities help define who we are and give us fullness in life and keep us healthy. We have seen patients make dramatic improvements in their rehab program when they rediscover leisure time activities. This is a little picture of what our staff looks like. We have 19 CTRS staff at Craig, 4 being leadership, 9 inpatient therapists, 3 outpatient therapists, 1 horticulture therapist, 1 teen adaptive gaming virtual reality therapist, and 1 evening and weekend therapist. And we also have 2 CTRS eligible interns. Therapeutic recreation program at Craig promotes overall well-being with the goal of improving, maintaining, and restoring physical strength, cognition, and mobility for someone through recreational activity. Our TR staff work closely alongside the interdisciplinary team in order to help meet patients' goals. Our CTRSs get to know each patient's recreation interests and investigate potential resources and put together programs and outings that will maximize skill development and promote community reintegration. Our goal is to give patients a chance to participate in a wide variety of satisfying recreation experiences as a part of their recovery. And our staff work with patients one-on-one and in group settings. Community outings. So a huge part of our program is providing community reintegration programs for our patients, and we usually start pretty early in their stay. Sometimes we have what's called an interdisciplinary outing, where a PT, OT, and recreational therapist take a group of patients within their first 2 to 4 weeks at Craig out into the community. This is so that they can learn to be an active member of their community once again, getting back out into the community with a disability, and it's an opportunity for them to practice skills that they are learning within the walls of Craig in the real world. They get exposure to ADA and accessibility, destigmatizing and normalizing disability in the community, opportunity to build relationships with other patients, and they're not alone on their first time out. So, like I said, we have interdisciplinary outings. It is awesome to have support from other disciplines in order to get out. We bring PT, OTs, nursing staff, sometimes respiratory therapy in order to get our vent-dependent patients out. And sometimes we can use billing as an opportunity for administration to see the value of community involvement. We offer group and individual outings, as you can see in this picture. This is a group of patients out at a Rockies game. So the group aspect is to experience things not alone. They get peer support and get to problem solve together. We also offer individual outings, which we more specify a person's interests, and we're doing our best to create the environment that they're going home to. For example, we have a former patient that owns a ranch, and she has horses and animals on that ranch. So if we have a patient in our hospital who is interested in getting back to that environment, such as a ranch environment, we're able to bring them to her ranch, and they get to experience rough terrain management, experience time with animals that they'll be experiencing once they go home. So we are now in our grad outing. So once somebody leaves our program, we call them a graduate or an alumni. And we are the middleman. We are the liaison that passes the baton for them into the community. So we're making connections with the community, and we don't want our patients to need us long term. So we're passing the baton to community organizations that they can continue to use independently, and no longer needing us as recreational therapists within the wall of Craig. Clinical staff can only do so much in a hospital setting. We live in Craig is a little accessible bubble, and the real world is not so. So creating environments in which our patients can simulate real life. One of the reasons we have such a strong program doing these community outings is because of support of strong partnerships, both clinically and community-based. So we work with the Colorado Rockies in order to get accessible seating, as well as the Denver Broncos. We work with community programs such as Adaptive Adventures, which helps us with our kayaking and biking programs. So we have a lot of partnerships, and partnerships are a necessity, not necessarily a bonus. Every setting has something to offer and can help one another. Craig Adventure Program. This is an extension of the Therapeutic Recreation Program, and we offer unique opportunities for travel, sports, and outdoor recreation. What happens after Craig? Once our patients leave our doors, we want to offer opportunities for them to get back to travel, get back to vacations, but still feel supported by Craig. So we offer a range of activities for grads, including scuba diving, hand cycling, fishing, hunting, and horseback riding. That's to name a few. And these are run by our recreational therapists. The goals we address through these trips. These are an opportunity for patients to practice traveling independently with or without their family and friends. They are able to experience different transfers onto rafts, boats, different equipment, and it's an opportunity for them to try a new transfer or direct a transfer. These trips are usually single day or multi-day, sometimes long weekends, and most of our patients are 6 months to a year post-discharge when they come on these trips. This is also a huge opportunity for patients to experience something totally independently. For example, we had a patient who really wanted to attend a trip, but he wasn't fully independent doing his ADL cares. He wasn't able to participate in his cares fully independently, and he wasn't able to have somebody come with him. So the months leading up to this trip, he practiced and practiced and practiced and got his morning cares taken care of so that he could attend this trip. That is a huge lifelong goal that this person now knows that they can do because they were motivated to attend one of these trips. And as you can see, there's a lot of positives and fun that come along with it. They're building relationships. They get to experience different activities and boost of quality of life and a little respite and break, some vacation time. So this is our intro to Kadee's part of the presentation. When thinking about these trips, we want partners that align with our mission and goals. And Kadee is here to share about our adaptive mountain biking program that we facilitated about a year ago. And our focus after Kadee's segment will be how to make these programs happen and the overall benefits of them. Kadee?
Thanks, Robyn. So I work with Oregon Adaptive Sports, and I will be using the acronym OAS very often throughout this, just to shorten my words coming out. And OAS is a leading adaptive sports organization in the Pacific Northwest. We operate through 10 sports and outdoor recreation year-round, removing the barriers to outdoor recreation for individuals with disabilities. We're based in Bend, Oregon, which is in Central Oregon, kind of like smack dab in the middle of the state. And we're a chapter of Move United, which is a national organization that has around 200 chapters. We operate mostly in the Central Oregon area and also have a ski program at Hoodoo, which is in the Willamette Valley towards Eugene and Portland side of things. And we are also working on expanding to serve the entire state of Oregon through remote traveling programs that we can develop more partnerships on. So OAS's mission is to provide life-changing outdoor recreation experiences to over 460 individuals who experience life with disability. These participants, or athletes, as I will continue to refer to them, which is similar to, or to take on Robyn's nomenclature of grads or patients, which I'm sure patients is a more common word within the therapeutic rec realm. But I'll use athletes because that's how we refer to them. And so athletes gain confidence, build self-esteem, and strive for independence, leading to an enhanced quality of life. Our vision is a day, Robyn, you go to the next slide, a day when everyone has the benefits of outdoor recreation, regardless of ability. Outdoor recreation is when I feel my best personally, and there are many studies on how it improves physical, mental, and emotional health. Central Oregon is a year-round destination for adaptive sports, and OAS is a leader in providing state-of-the-art equipment, professional instruction, staff, and dedicated volunteers, resulting in top-quality experiences for our participants. We have alpine and Nordic skiing, snowboarding, and snowshoeing in the winter, hiking, road cycling, mountain biking, climbing, paddling, and golf in the summer, and are looking at ways to expand or overlap those seasons through this really unique area of spring skiing and fall activities where we could do an activity weekend of climbing, mountain biking, and paddling, as well as skiing or snowboarding, all in the same time frame, which is certainly one of my favorite things of having a multi-sport day or weekend that overlaps with sun and snow. Next slide. When Rob and I were planning, I had joked about coming up with a really elaborate way to identify the slide changes, but I didn't get creative enough. So our ultimate vision is that we want to see outdoor recreation as a fully inclusive community where organizations that remove barriers like OAS or other adaptive sports organizations aren't needed, and everyone can celebrate their differences in abilities and is able to recreate in community together. This is a picture we have of that dream, which also incorporates the overlap of seasons with, there's an off-road hand cyclist along with a stand-up biker or two-wheeled biker, skier, as well as a sit skier, paddlers, and adaptive climbers all climbing together. Okay, next slide. With the history of OAS, we started in 1996 as Central Oregon Adaptive Ski Program, where skiing was our main focus, and it still, to this day, is our largest program that we offer. Over the years, we have grown a lot, from starting in a trailer parked in a ski resort to now operating at 2 ski hills with dedicated rooms and offices, and our headquarters in downtown Bend. And our summer program is growing very rapidly as well. After 2016 is when our summer sports really started taking off. And prior to that, they were one-off week-long programs around the 2012 era. We now serve 465 individuals, and a large amount of these individuals are Oregonians, while many also travel from out of state. We have people from Florida, Washington, California, Idaho, Maine, Texas, and also Chile and some European countries as well who have traveled to participate with OAS. Okay, next slide. And with all of this work, we need a lot of support to make all this happen. We have over 400 volunteers who volunteer with us regularly, and they've dedicated over 7,000 hours to make our programs happen. Our typical layout looks like 1 athlete, 1 or 2 volunteer assistants, and 1 instructor. That instructor, the large base of our instructor pool is paid instructors. We also have volunteer instructors as well who have had more training or the same training as our instructors. OAS supplies 35 trainings for these volunteers and instructors to have the knowledge base needed to work with adaptive athletes, as well as teach the skills required for all of these activities. We have 15 part-time seasonal paid instructor staff and 5 full-time year-round staff who keep the admin side of things running with our logistical support, and like my position is a full-time year-round staff. And next slide. Another huge form of support is our partnership. We rely on combining resources with other organizations to build programming with each of our strengths. From OAS, we bring the expertise of instruction in outdoor recreation, our large quiver of adaptive equipment, because adaptive equipment is one, very unique to each individual, and also expensive. So most places can't keep all of the needed pieces of equipment on hand for each activity or each program. Partnerships also allow us to create a well-rounded experience for athletes while preserving each individual organization's time. That allows us to focus on our strengths as an organization and rely on the strengths of others so we can build each other up. With the Craig Adventure Program, OAS could focus on thoughtful progressions in off-road hand cycling, while Craig focused on the athlete care and community building from a therapist side or rec therapist side. And then Destination Rehab focused on the physical therapy aspect for prepping and recovering the body on each of the days of the activities. So we had like a trifecta of health and wellness going on. These partnerships also expand the reach of all of our organizations. So OAS, we were able to figure out better ways to serve athletes who had graduated from Craig and were going on to their own recreational path. Many of these athletes, which I'll touch on again too, continue working with OAS and are now living in the Pacific Northwest area, and we get to see them more regularly. Then they tell their friends about it, and it expands all of our reach to serve more people ultimately. Now going into our adventure program. This partnership with Craig Hospital was OAS's first program of this style. Typically, we operate by offering private lessons and doing a set of progressions throughout someone's visit with us, which may be throughout the entire season versus a week-long progression style. And Craig Hospital, OAS, and Destination Rehab partnered together for a week of mountain biking in Central Oregon, specifically in Bend. And the focus of this adventure program was on recreation for life. 4 out of 5 of the athletes were using off-road hand cycles, which is a very shoulder-intensive activity. There's a picture here of Paul, who's using the Lasher off-road hand cycle, where his legs are supported with a single wheel in front, and then he has 2 wheels in the back and hand cranks that help steer as well as propel his bike forward. One of the athletes was in a trike, a fat wheel trike that we'll see a picture of, I think, in the next slide. But there's Dave on a trike. So he was not using an off-road hand cycle, but had his bike was propelled by his feet. And so with this partnership in particular, we really wanted to think through shoulder health and not relying on overuse of shoulders, especially with individuals with spinal cord injuries. Their shoulders are crucial to daily tasks. So we focused on building cycling skills, shoulder health, and making smart recreation decisions by incorporating rest days. The agenda around the off-road hand cycling portion, so we spent 1 day on sit-ups to make sure that the bike was fit to the athlete. And then we went on to building the skills needed for cycling, like braking and accelerating, cornering through a turn, redistributing body weight over obstacles, and giving people the toolkit that they needed to be successful on the trails. A part of this progression is also giving people more independence while they have or are building the skills that they need for successful recreation. And the next day was trails for practice, where we chose trails that had elements of these skill building activities that was also easy enough for people to take slowly, so they could come into a turn and feel how one turn feels when they corner really hard or lean the correct way through the turn. And then the next turn, they can practice it even more. And then the third day was a ride for the third day of biking, not the third day within the week-long things. But the fourth focus was a ride for refinement, which was our longest ride and incorporated all of the skills that the athletes had developed over the week. Then the next main focus was body care and rest. Each day, Destination Rehab did physical therapy specific to the muscles that are used in cycling. There was a warm-up and muscle activation, warm downs and body check-ins at the end to make sure that people's shoulders and the rest of their bodies were still feeling up for another day of exercise or another day of hand cycling. And just to incorporate that awareness into people's regular activity. So when they go home, they can take these practices to know that they need to spend the extra 30 minutes to an hour warming up and activating the muscles that they're going to use for that day, and then warming down at the end of the activity so that they're ready the next day for something else, as well as building that awareness of not just like pushing through as so many of us are accustomed to doing, but really checking in with our body and feeling where things are at. Then at the end, athletes were given their take-home exercises for things that they could work on and incorporate into their regular exercise when they're not at a program like this that schedules things in. And body sustainability was focused on through a rest day or a low impact day. Initially, we had a kayak trip planned, but it snowed. So we adapted that, as we do, to a day of yoga and tinkering on bikes. And in retrospect, I think that not having a kayak day of just focusing on yoga or something else is a better plan anyways, because of the intensity on kayaking and shoulder use too. So really giving those muscles the opportunity to rest without re-aggravating things. And this was the rest day or low impact day was intentionally placed before the longest ride so that people would be well rested going into that final day that was the longest ride of the week. And this next slide is our group photo at the end. It was a fantastic week. All of the OAS staff absolutely loved it. We still rave about it. That was my favorite week of work throughout my entirety at OAS. And I also learned so much working with Craig Hospital and learning how they create these partnerships with other organizations, as well as how to thoughtfully plan out a week of activity and see what OAS can do to improve these progressions and support the logistics of things. So we created great connections with athletes and their families, and 3 of the 5 individuals who worked with us came back to ride with us and also ski with us in the following winter. And in this list of people, we have Paul on the right side. He's in a lasher with an off-road hand cycle. And then there's Dave in the middle there. He's on the 3-wheeled trike with the fat trike. And Eli is in the middle of everyone there, also on a lasher that doesn't have e-assist. He was a trooper through all of that, where everyone else had e-assist. And then we have, oh my gosh, this is who I worked with. Rio, thank you. Then we have Rio, and he is on the Nuke, which is has a single wheel in the back and 2 wheels up front. It's steered and pedaled differently, so there's a steering handlebars as well as the pedaling handlebars. And then Jordan is on the far left, and he is in a similar style bike to Rio, with 2 wheels in the front and 1 in the back, but his is called the Bomber, and it has a chest steering mechanism. So he's on his knees leaning forward versus all the other ones are a sitting off-road hand cycle. So yeah, it was a fantastic week, and I'll pass it off to Robyn to fill in on the rest of that.
All right, thank you. This was an amazing week. You can see, where are you, Kadee? I'm right here. I'm in the teal, and Kadee, you're somewhere.
I'm next to you in the yellow.
Oh yeah, there we are. So moving forward, like I said, we're going to talk about how did we start this program as a whole. So in 1972, the Therapeutic Recreation Department at Craig was started. So it's still fairly young. And it began with little funding, of course. And so this was very patient-directed. Patients started asking questions to the recreational therapist at that time about camping, travel, and things like that. And so the recreational therapist at that time started small, day outings, fishing, canoeing, things that they could do locally within a short period of time. And then they started doing an interdisciplinary overnight camping outing with inpatients, and that got shut down in the 80s because of insurance. But amazing that they were able to offer that at that time. Then, in collaboration with another program, a program called Casa Colina, which is an outpatient program based in California, they presented the adventure program idea to the recreation department at Craig and talked about its benefits. And it highlighted camping, cruises, and pairing with community partners. And that's where our department hit the ground running. We started fundraising, applying for grants. Former patients have donated to us. We were awarded a $25,000 grant around that time and was able to start our adventure program. We also do fundraising efforts throughout the year in order to raise money for this program. Volunteers. Volunteers are absolutely essential, as Kadee mentioned in her part of the presentation. Craig has a huge volunteer corps here, and they attend outings with us at times, and most community organizations are volunteer-based, so they have a lot of volunteers and few paid staff, and those volunteers are truly the heartbeat of those organizations. Your community wants to be involved, so ways that you can open it up to the community to take part is absolutely essential. The Recreation Department developed more opportunities for patients to go on adventures, and patients that went on these adventures saw the value and started donating to our adventure fund. So we've been able to offer more and more opportunities, and in the past 7 years, our adventure program has grown by 70% and is totally donor funded. And we offer about 10 to 12 trips a year. Funding. I know this is going to be a huge part of the questions, and so we wanted to dedicate some time to this. Administration support of your clinical organization is absolutely essential in order to get something like this started. And so we have to prove that our program is worth funding. And so also grads who have attended trips are donating. We have our foundation. So since Craig is a not-for-profit hospital, we do have a foundation and development team that are putting on fundraising events, applying for grants, and they are hugely critical to our success as a program. And so they find donors, both corporations and individuals, to help with our budget. We have fundraisers. One is called the Push Gala. And we also do a monthly breakfast burrito fundraiser. So it can be a gala event or a very small breakfast burrito event. We also have an event called Pedal for Possible, which is our cycling century ride fundraiser this year, which we put on virtually. So that put on its own challenges, but we were hugely successful, raising over $230,000 with that event this year. We apply for grants regularly. And in conjunction with this adaptive mountain biking program we did with Oregon Adaptive Sports, we applied for a grant with the Craig Nielsen Foundation. Pat Adabo, the executive director over at OAS, put together this grant so that, and it benefited both OAS and Craig. It helped pay for programming costs of our trip, as well as help pay for equipment that was essential in order for us to put on this trip. So grants aren't just for your organization, they can be shared throughout. Craig budgets for TR staff to attend. So as part of our budget, we pay for our staff to attend as well as their coverage. You know, our staff leave the hospital for a week and they still have patients within the walls of Craig. So they need coverage staff in order to help cover that. We also have grads pay their own way on these trips. Taking a vacation, of course, costs money. So we, the therapeutic recreation staff that are running each individual trip, are in charge of budgeting as well as collecting funds from our grads. We also have an amazing scholarship fund so that if patients are not able to pay the full amount, we can help subsidize their cost.
Robyn, if I can pop in on the grants as well, having partnerships through grants is a huge benefit, and grant funders are more eager to provide funding, generally more eager to provide funding to organizations that are partnering with other organizations, which helps a lot, especially with OAS partnering with Craig, where Craig Hospital is very established. The OAS can get the funding from the Craig Nielsen Foundation with the support of Craig to further both of our causes.
Absolutely. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about community partnerships, both local and non-local. Like I've said before, Craig has partnerships locally here in the Colorado Denver metro area, as well as nationwide. And so we have done, clinical staff can only do so much in a hospital setting, as I've said before, and we need community partnerships to help us simulate real life for our patients. And so locally, benefits of that are it's easily accessible. We can get in our Craig buses, tie people down, and bus them out to a park or a baseball game or a museum. So those are very easy. We're able to provide education to our community partners as well as them provide education to us. And a good amount of our patients do come from the Colorado area, so it's potentially their home community that they're exploring. So how to create these partnerships: outreach, networking, referrals. Sometimes we've had patients come back being like, I went to this place, you should check it out. And we're able to explore those options. Local organizations that fit participant need. So we're looking at areas and places that fit what our patients' goals are. And funding are the patient/participant, working within a budget, and donors and fundraising. Non-local, the benefits of that are travel education. Somebody might be getting on a plane to attend this trip, or driving their car for a long period of time, or taking a bus or a boat, anything like that. Non-local, we're able to partner with new organizations. Like this was our first time experiencing a partnership with Oregon Adaptive Sports. And we're also learning about other areas in accessibility. This was my first time to Bend, so I was able to explore that town and its accessibility. Again, same how: referrals, outreach, networking. Statewide, regional, or national organizations that fit participant needs. And funding also can be the same. Patient paying their way, having a budget, and donors and fundraising efforts. With Oregon Adaptive Sports, this trip we wanted to focus regionally. And so we looked at patients who discharged back to the Pacific Northwest area. And so that is us handing the baton over to Oregon Adaptive Sports, showing these participants that this resource exists so that they can continue to use them in the future, no longer needing Craig necessarily as their resource. And with this partnership, I'm able to build my numbers and portfolio. Oregon Adaptive Sports is able to, build their numbers and portfolio. And they need people, and we need people, and we both have them to share with one another. Some examples of our local partnerships here in Colorado is National Sports Center for the Disabled, Arkansas River Tours, Staunton State Park, Denver Parks and Recreation, and some of our national non-local partners are Princess Cruise Lines, Oregon Adaptive Sports, Silver Bow Club, Oregon Adaptive Sports, and the list can continue on and on. Program development. So starting small. This is an opportunity for things to start very, very small. It's how we developed. We started with just taking patients fishing, or just to canoe, or just to the museum, or to the park. And so starting small where you're able to access those places. Customized trips to fit grad needs and interests. maximize therapist skills and interests and bring those into newer programs. And so this mountain biking program was my little brainchild. I love mountain biking, and this was an excuse for me to selfishly create a trip based on my interest and my skills. And so, but also a need for our grads and their interests as well. And we're able to create and utilize relationships with different resources. Future expansion. So we've talked about grads playing a more active role in the planning process. So if a patient wants to attend a trip with us, get them started early. Can they plan part of the trip? Can they plan the food? Can they plan the travel? Things like that, trying to involve the grad more and more into the planning process. Surveying interests of grads so that we can continue to be serving their needs. Exploring other adaptive programs and continuing to create and build new relationships. And trips specific to patient population / age group. And we just have recently started that we have some teens, 15-year-olds to 20-year-olds, adolescents that come to our program. And we started catering a trip just to that age group. And also a brain injury specific trip so that they have that community aspect as well. And we meet as a staff, we do a fall retreat and discuss our current programs and changes and ideas that we have moving forward. And for 2020, it wasn't our year to throw this program, of course, but 2021, we are planning on moving forward with our adventure program, and we're trying to figure out the best ways that we can safely put those programs on. Next, we're moving into strategies of how to build clinical and community collaborations. Networking, fostering relationships, building connections, both personal and professional. The reason I know that Oregon Adaptive Sports exists is that a former coworker boss of mine is now the executive director there. So I had that connection and I reached out to him and figured out how we could put this program on. Building awareness of what your organization does, initiating the conversation, call the program director, call a staff member there. Conferences, such as this one. We don't necessarily have the networking opportunities this year, but conferences are a great opportunity to meet other professionals. And networking leads to outreach, which is the next part. Outreach, local and non-local organizations, developing partnerships, purpose, both programmatic and educational. Trialing a program, so seeing maybe you're not able to provide outings as a clinical setting. Bring that community organization to your parking lot. Can your patients go out to the parking lot and see equipment that this organization may have? That will be so eye-opening for that patient, and they know that that resource exists once they leave the hospital. Patient expertise. What do our participants and patients know once they leave Craig? Have they been somewhere and had a great experience? They can come back and refer those and recommend those to us. And using our patients and clients as a liaison also to find new organizations that may exist in the area. And funding, budget, grants and fundraising, patient/client contribution, administrative support are very essential in order to make a collaboration such as this. Community partnerships also sometimes have scholarship funds and fundraising. A lot of community organizations also are non-for-profit, so they are doing fundraising efforts as well. And sometimes they have scholarships available to offset the cost of the clinical organization. And then utilize your partnerships to raise funds. Using social media to share that these organizations spent time together, attending one another's events and supporting one another in fundraising. If you aren't able to physically or financially contribute, then spread the word. Continue to refer to those programs. And then benefits of a clinical and community collaboration. This is a little image that shows that everybody benefits from these partnerships. The participant benefits from the community organization and the clinical organization. The community organization benefits from both the participant and the clinical organization, and the clinical organization benefits from the community organization and the participant as well. Here are some participant benefits. The services are available by location, so being able to share resources in their home location versus near the facility that they're at. They traveling to a location the participant wants to visit. Maybe they've always wanted to go to Alaska, so finding a community partner in that area and knowing that resources are available. It's a transition into the community. Clinical staff act as a liaison to the community organizations. So we're doing that handoff so that they no longer need the support of the clinical organization, and now have the support of the community organization. Community education, the skills for independence in the community, community access, accessibility, and ADA. Patient resources, peer interactions in the community. The times that we spend on our trips sitting around the dinner table and just sharing stories of the day, their problem solving, different transfers, problem solving different challenges that they've had since their injury, that is invaluable. We're not able to put a price tag on something like that. Equipment, they get exposure to different adaptive equipment, tools to returning to recreation, and skill building. Difficult transfers, mobilities in the community, transportation, travel, and things like that. And these are the benefits the participant of the program receives both from the clinical and the community organization. And like Kadee and I have both said, we want our patients, participants, clients, athletes, grads to no longer need us as a resource eventually, and for them to enter their recreation lifestyle independently. Empower them with resources so they can follow through with programming and recreation on their own. And then these are organizational benefits of these partnerships. Collaborative knowledge. Kadee touched on this earlier. We're sharing expertise with one another. It's an opportunity for education. As a clinical organization, we have education to provide to our community partners, and as the community partner, they have education to provide to us. Risk management, like Kadee said earlier, Craig was very focused on the patient care side, the community building, and Oregon Adaptive Sports was very much so sports specific. Another benefit is publicity. This is a marketing opportunity for both programs to show that they are partnering with one another, and it expands your reach. Program development and growth. This is a great way to expand programs. Building new partnerships means expansion, and also for those community organizations, they're gaining new clients, participants, athletes. And it's also an opportunity to try a different way of programming or a different type of activity. And equipment, sharing equipment resources. Everyone can't have every piece of equipment. As a community organization, they have access to space where they can use their equipment. As a hospital, we have a storage room that is filled to the brim, and we can't fit any more equipment inside our walls. And even though we want more and more and more and more in order to have exposure for our patients. And it also offers us an opportunity to learn about new pieces of equipment. So in conclusion, this will leave us about 10 minutes for questions, which is great. Community and clinical collaborations are essential to success of both programs. I also want to start small, make the phone call, send the email, start in the parking lot, or start with one patient, and you will see the value of these programs immediately. Clinicians and community partners have a wealth of knowledge to share with one another, and truly it is a partnership, not an ask. We're very equal. It's not just taking, it's not just giving. We all have something to contribute. Kadee, do you have any comments to add to conclusion?
Yeah, one part with starting small, like that small start may just be having a conversation with another organization and hearing what they do. There may not be an applicable partnership yet, but having that connection will open the door in the future and spark interest, or maybe that partner or that organization has an idea of someone else you can partner with. So I've been in the works of partnering with another local adaptive sports organization in Oregon, where they would do the camping and we would do the sports for in the future. And it's now been 3 years that we've been talking about doing this. And eventually I know it will happen, but we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. So put the time in and the rest will come out there. And just to emphasize also that it is truly a partnership, that we both have a lot to gain in partnering together. And with this specific partnership with Craig as well as with OAS, we were both able to gain a lot from this. And it often feels like an ask as a small nonprofit of coming to a larger nonprofit or a larger for-profit company, like, hey, I want to partner with you on this, like having that confidence that we have a lot to offer and they do too, so we can both benefit each other. It's like more of an abundance mentality rather than the scarcity mentality that is easy to get sucked into.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Thank you, everybody. We'd like to open the floor to questions if you guys have any. I see one in the chat, Kadee.
Yeah, so speaking, the question is, thanks, Evan, for popping this in the chat. Does OAS or Craig partner with U.S. Paralympics? OAS does not partner directly with U.S. Paralympics. Well, I guess kind of, not directly. The only sport that we have direct connection with is that one of our athletes, Ravi Drugan, is on the U.S. Paralympic team. And so we don't specify in racing. We are much more focused on outdoor recreation, which is less of the race-based sports that the Paralympics focus on. So we don't have a direct partnership, but there is a little bit of overlap there.
And at Craig, we are a parasports chapter. So we do offer exposure to different Paralympic activities. And we have the Olympic Training Center down in Colorado Springs, which we visited before. And we also partner with organizations, National Sports Center for the Disabled being a huge one. They have a Paralympic shooting team as well as a sit ski racing team. And so we have partners as well as being a parasport chapter.
Oh, there's a lot more coming in. Okay. Do you ever have pushback that adventure activities are dangerous?
Yes.
And yes, I will say we do too. There are some, like OAS specifically, we don't do whitewater because of that element. Mm-hmm. If we incorporate whitewater rafting into or kayaking into our activities, we outsource that and partner with another company. There's just a lot more skill and equipment involved in those activities that we would rather tap into someone else. But I think that a big reframe when the dangerous, like adventure activities being dangerous comes up is bringing in the element of risk and how each individual benefits from risk in our lives, and having the ability and independence to assess that risk or have the dignity of risk is a really important component to incorporate into our lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, adventure activities are inherently risky. Speaking from the clinical side, inpatients, our folks are coming from the ICU to Craig. And so getting physician clearance in order for them to do some of these high-risk activities might take a little bit longer. But people who are going to community organizations tend to be further out of their injury, months or years out of their injury. And that's their choice if they want to take on that risk. And like Kadee said, the dignity and the thrill of risk is huge for our overall well-being.
Mm-hmm. And then from Laurel, thanks, Kristen, that's a great question, and something I think we all need to think about of how we appropriately incorporate risk into our activities. And from Laurel, we have, does OAS hire CTRSs? We do not currently have any CTRSs on staff. We are making our strategic plan for the next 5 years within the next couple months, and I see a huge benefit in having CTRSs on staff, but we currently do not have any.
Awesome. And I am reading Jackie's question. It is very thorough, which I love. You have developed some partnerships, which is amazing, leading the conversation. Do you have advice about how to shift partnerships from just squeezed into my role to a more larger program advocating for program coordination, support from leadership and management? I don't necessarily have advice other than proving that these partnerships are of value, and maybe having a survey of participants and showing qualitative numbers that they were able to benefit from these programs and achieve goals and the like. And so I think if you were able to do a research study or a survey and get some numbers, then you can prove to leadership and management that these programs are meaningful and worth funding, therefore worth growing and having program coordination and leadership abilities. Any other questions?
There was one aspect, one question I got on talking about the positive elements of risk. And we didn't address this in our, I think this is more of a philosophy that I have personally and the OAS is adopting, that risk is, and I'm a little bit out of like adventure leadership schools, but I think risk is essential to human life and also gives the thrill of living and choosing those risks. And we do it every day through very simple tasks of incorporating risk, but then also through bigger tasks of like within adventure and outdoor exploration, that risk creates that stretch zone. So if you have like your comfort zone, you all are also you're in school, I'm assuming. So this may be outdated by 10 years. So with the way I like thinking of it is like you have your current zone that you're sticking in, and then with expansion of that, you have your stretch zone, which is where we grow, and risk increases that stretch zone. If there's too much risk, it comes into overload, and like fear comes in and overwhelm or reaching someone's threshold, and that is not productive. So that's that appropriate incorporation of risk. But having that stretch zone is where we grow and increase our own independence, as well as becoming like better humans.
Awesome. And I have a question from Savannah. Savannah asked, what would your recommendation for community partnerships at an inpatient hospital that has a shorter length of stay? Our average is 1 to 2 months, and to add suggestions for implementing a community-based program for a hospital with a shorter length of stay. And so I've talked to a number of recreational therapists that work in other settings about the same thing, where they have 2 to 3 week stays, 1 to 2 month stays. And if you're able to develop a program that it happens at a certain frequency, where you always go cycling or kayaking or go to the park and have a picnic or do one of these things a certain day every month, then you're able to hit patients throughout their stay. And if it's developed, then the patients just automatically get put into that program. But community reintegration, we feel, is absolutely essential. And if you're able to either bring that program to your parking lot where you can do it and you don't have to transport people, or if you're able to transport people, bring them to the program. But if you're able to do that within the first few weeks of their stay, that would be huge for sure. Awesome. Any more before we wrap things up? Okay, I don't see any more coming through, but Kadee and my email are on the screen, and please feel free to reach out to either of us. And thank you so much for attending our presentation. It was great to see some familiar names of some Cortland folks, and I wish you all well.
Thank you. That was great. And just to let you know, too, with CEUs, I have all of your names, and we will be in contact around December 1st-ish and getting you everything you need set up.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Feel free to reach out.
Okay. Do we just leave?
I don't know what's the etiquette here.
Whenever you're ready, you can. There's just a red X at the bottom.
Okay.
You can just hit that.
Thanks, Kadee.
Cool. Thanks, Robbie. Great job.
Yeah, you too.
And thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
That was wonderful.